Happy Sunday, YouTube family. I don't think I've gone live in a while. So today I'm talking about reversing diabetes naturally, diabetes, prediabetes, and insulin resistance, also healthy weight loss. So I love this topic because I feel like often we feel stuck. I've definitely heard this from several people recently that they felt frustrated or disappointed or defeated by current recommendations, right? Often as physicians, we look at the numbers all the time, right? We focus on, calories, macros, weight, pound, all of these things. And, it's important to have metrics, but people are people, right? And so we need to look at the human part of it. And I like to focus on abundance instead of restriction. And I think that's so, so important because I don't want to walk around life all the time thinking about what I can't have or counting everything or worrying about everything. And I know I'm not the only one having heard this from several people recently. So I want to give you hope. So first I thought I would talk about what exactly is going on. I just have a little list here so I make sure I stay on track. So I think the important thing is to understand that there's hope. That's the first thing. And then I want to talk about what is going on, right? So let's talk a little bit about insulin resistance and specifically midlife. So insulin resistance means that your body has insulin, right? And often has high insulin levels. But for whatever reason, I'll explain a little bit more about it, the insulin isn't working. So insulin is the key, right, that unlocks the door of the cell that lets the glucose into the cell. And the glucose is what gives our body energy. It nourishes our body. It feeds our brain, feeds our other organs. We need glucose to survive. Unfortunately, when it's not working, so our body tries to compensate. So the glucose isn't getting in, so it sends a signal that your body is starving. So your body always tries to rebalance everything and is always trying to create, normalize everything, so balance out everything. So then it rises the insulin even more because there's a problem. The glucose still isn't getting into the cell. And that elevated insulin makes us, you know, um, put on more weight. So it actually causes more weight around the middle, and it can set up this whole cascade of end organ damage. It also, because we're not getting that glucose, our brain is like, it's sending signals to your brain that, oh my God, you're starving, and it causes cravings. And it causes so many other things. So, with midlife and women with perimenopause and menopause, we are also have this increase, weight, which is because our body again is trying to compensate. Our estrogen levels are falling. So what happens is we start making um, um, estrogen or creating hormones in our fat cells. So we have more fat deposition. What also happens is we have less muscle mass. So our muscle mass decreases a little bit. And muscle is one of the things that has a high metabolic rate. So with that lower metabolic rate, we're burning fewer calories. So that causes more weight gain. So all of this is a setup for insulin resistance or visceral fat. And so that is why it's even harder in midlife. But the other thing that's happening with women in midlife is diabetes. Hi, thank you for joining. I'm talking about diabetes and weight gain in midlife and insulin resistance and how we can manage it and reverse it. So so I was saying we gain weight, but some of the other things that happen in midlife is our digestion changes, our absorption of nutrients changes. So often we have we are even more out of balance, right? Our body is looking for those micronutrients. So it sends more signals to our brain, okay, we need balance. So you're trying to you have more cravings. And when we restrict calories, and we focus solely on a few macros, we focus on decreasing carbohydrates and increasing protein, we're missing out on all of those other micronutrients, all those other foods that provide nourishment to our body. I will say that the other thing is when we're managing diabetes, we often talk about limiting carbs and increasing protein because protein is not going to have an effect on it doesn't need insulin, right, for our body to use it. Carbohydrates, our body needs insulin to use. So it seems logical. Okay, our insulin's not working properly. Let's limit the carbohydrates. Okay, so in the short term, that's going to help our blood sugar be more controlled. But the thing is, most of the time, those carbohydrate rich foods, if we're talking about whole unprocessed carbohydrate rich foods, these are foods that can be healing. And so I like to talk about food instead of the macro component, which is a really important point. So when we focus on improving the quality of the food that we consume and consuming it abundantly, we can actually help our body heal. We can help reverse the insulin resistance. We can lower the inflammation that's going on in our body. We can improve those nutrient, micronutrient, and nutrient deficiencies. We can improve our gut health, and it just helps our body function better overall, improve our metabolism, improves our all of these organs, help our organs function better, which ultimately the goal is that we age, and that we age being healthy, right? We don't want to age and have all these chronic conditions that we have to manage, need more medication over time, or need help as we get older. So it's looking at the whole person, looking at the whole picture, and approaching it abundantly, right? So I like to look at the quality of the food and consuming more of those high quality foods. So what high quality food should we be consuming more of? Fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans and legumes, nuts and seeds. These foods, which tend to be labeled as carbohydrates, actually can be very nourishing and are very nourishing. They provide fiber, they provide vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and all of those nutrients that we need to improve, decrease, again, decrease inflammation, improve our metabolism, improve our gut health, which helps all of the organs in our body function better. Other things that are important are other lifestyle factors. So things like moving our body, which I know we talk a lot about, lifting more weights as we get into middle age, which is important to maintain our muscle. But I would say that it's important, but the most important thing is just some movement that is moving our muscles, moving our body. And ideally, if we even walk 10 minutes after meals, that can improve how our body processes glucose. It can improve our insulin sensitivity. So I would say moving just regularly throughout our days is really important. Sleep is another thing that often we negate. We think that I'll make up on it later, but the problem is sleep is one of the times when our body heals. Right? Our brain goes through a cleanup process when we sleep. Our bodies go through a cleanup process. They remove those cells that are damaged. We balance our hormones when we sleep. So when we lack sleep, it is another stressor on our body. So it increases our cortisol level even more. If we already have high stress in our life, by limiting our sleep, we're even compounding that stress. We're making that stress worse, which can worsen this whole process of insulin resistance and worsen diabetes, make it hard to balance, or put you at risk for developing prediabetes and other chronic conditions as you get older. So sleep, managing stress is another big one. So I will say that I used to negate the effects of stress. You think about stress when you're going through it, but you don't think about the ongoing stress and that ongoing effect that the stress has on your body. And I will say that this cell phone that I'm on is a big source of stress for a lot of people. You don't even think about how often you're getting notifications, or you are just seeing news that is too much, that we shouldn't be, receiving all the time. And our body feels it. So you may not recognize it at the time, but our body is keeping score. So finding ways to de-stress, to unplug, to be present is really important, because the more we do that, the more we stimulate the vagus nerve, which helps lower our heart rate, lower those stress hormones, stimulate happy hormones, that in fact actually has a positive effect on our overall health and preventing or helping reverse insulin resistance. So sleep, movement, food, stress, toxins are another one. So you want to avoid risky substances as much as possible. Alcohol can have a negative effect on glucose, has a negative effect on our body. I didn't talk about our liver, but the liver is a real place where a lot of toxin elimination occurs, which is why it is at high risk for damage. And it is a place where insulin resistance is compounded, and why we're seeing more and more people with diabetes and that are having fatty liver disease, and progression of that liver disease to cirrhosis and liver failure. So it's really important to address these issues, and what I'm talking about can help with that as well. And then the last one is connection, which is important because we are social beings, and being connected with people that that our community, our family, that we feel, strong bonds to, also has a positive effect. It releases happy hormones as well, which helps lower inflammation and helps our body function better. So these are the components of the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. The other pillar that I like to focus on, which when I talk to people all the time, is joy. Joy is essential. Joy is present in us, but sometimes we forget about it. And it is a really important component in healing. It's an important component because when we're making a lifestyle change, we need to feel joy in that change so that we're able to maintain it for the long term. And when we are healthy, we're joyful, and when we're joyful, we're healthy. So it goes back and forth, and it's really important to focus on that as well. So that's just kind of an overview of the things that are important when we're talking about prediabetes and diabetes, and even difficult weight gain or losing weight. When we support our bodies in healing, it's amazing that without counting calories, without counting macros, without counting carbs and protein and all those other things, that the weight comes off without thinking about it. And I would argue that it's a healthy way to to lose weight. And when we focus on supporting our body and helping our body heal, then it supports so much more than just a healthy weight, right? It supports health overall. It helps our whole body function better, especially as we get older, when the risk for these chronic diseases increases. When we go through perimenopause and menopause, that is a critical time to make a change that is supportive of our body's healing. Because if we don't make a change at this time, then things can get worse, progress, and get much worse over time. So I hope I gave some good simple things. I'll say a few simple things that you can do today, which I think everybody should be doing, is focusing on increasing the quality of the diet. So when we talk about fiber, is one of the most powerful changes you can make in your diet, because lack of fiber is probably the biggest cause of most of the chronic diseases that we see. When we have a fiber-rich diet, so a fiber-rich diet is foods that are fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans and legumes, nuts and seeds. When we make those foods the star of what we eat, everything is better, right? It supports our gut health, which is probably one of the biggest controllers of all of this, right? Is our microbiome. It decreases inflammation. It helps maintain a healthy weight. It helps lower cholesterol. It helps balance your blood sugar. So fiber is really the key when we talk about dietary change, the thing that everybody should be focused on, from all ages. Really important, because if you focus on fiber and improving the quality of your diet at any age, it's going to lead to long-term health. So that's really, really important. Sleep, protect your sleep at all costs. So 7 to 9 hours of sleep, 7 to 9 hours a night of sleep we should all be getting. Moving your body regularly, even 10 minutes after meals. If you can start with that simple habit and build on it, it's great. And the more movement throughout the day, the better, right? If we work out in the morning and then we sit the rest of the day, that actually can be even worse for us. So we want to just be incorporating movement throughout the day. Park the car farther away. Get up and take a walk break in the middle of the day. As we work from home more, work in our computers more, it's really important to think about that, scheduling and those movement breaks. Some type of mindfulness. My favorite mindful activity, I mean, meditation is great. My favorite mindful activity is just paying attention. I look out my window right here, paying attention to nature. When we tune into nature, we automatically slow down. So whether it's like looking at a tree or, looking at a bird, looking at the sky, the clouds, anything like that is going to help lower your heart rate and just help, center you on the present now. So those are my few tips for today. I do have a 12-week program that helps people manage diabetes, reverse diabetes, actually lower the medication needs, and prevent diabetes progression to diabetes from prediabetes, if that's the case. Help many people get off medication altogether or avoid medication altogether, which is great. And the other great thing is that I've had many people tell me that they were able to lose weight without thinking about it. And that's the great thing, because after years and years of struggling, trying to follow these rigid rules of cutting carbs and limiting calories and working out all the time, that simply by focusing on, again, these things that I talked about today, that they were able to lose weight. And I remember one woman in particular was like, I cannot believe this because you're having me eat foods that I've been told to avoid for all of these years. And by including those foods and focusing again on the quality of the diet and these other factors, she was able to lose weight and also improve her diabetes. So that's all of my tips for today. Stop yapping. Oh, that's pleasant. Okay, whoa. Happy Sunday. Thank you so much for watching. Okay, catch you next time.